Greetings, my doves, my darlings, my dicks and dulcet, doting dears. So this video is entitled, if I remember to title it what I'm saying it's titled now, Proofs of a Spiritual Reality. So, does that mean I can prove to you that there's a spiritual reality? No, of course not. You have to prove that to yourself. These are what I consider reasons to continue investigating the possibilities that these signs, these indications, these events suggest. And I would go so far as to say that my reticence, my tendency to want to keep one foot in the skeptical door is based in mind control and brainwashing. It's because my brain has been damaged by social conditioning, as have most people's brains. I think it's clear that if I were truly a reasonable person, I would look at all of this, we'll say, evidence as sufficiently compelling to use the word believe reasonably, while remaining reasonable. So take that as it is. But that having been said, the things I'm going to explain to you, most of which I've talked about before, but it's worth covering again. And of course, since my great temper tantrum, the great flouncing, I've deleted previous videos covering these topics. If I remember to title the video as I'm thinking now, it will be Proofs of Spiritual Reality and What to Do About It. So what do you do about it? Well, through meditation and your shmir shmuel practice, you will balance your mind. You will undo the left and or right brain imbalance which has been imposed upon you by mind control and social conditioning. Because that is the point. These are the shackles that this is how we be enslaved. All right? It's by throwing you into either left or right brain imbalance, by turning you into a left-brained fighting slave or a right-brained submissive slave. It doesn't matter which side of the brain you are biased toward, either way turns you into a dupe, a sucker, a cuck, a bitch, a slave, a tool, a cog in the machine. All right? If you have both the right and left sides of your brain fully activated, then you are an awakened human being. Now, there are three aspects of a person that need to be awakened. It is thought, emotion, and action. All right? This is why numbers like 666 and 777 are serials of 3. All right? There's a reason for that. This is a code. Should I explain that now or should I explain it later? I'll just explain it now. All right, 666, the three numbers in 666 and the three numbers in 777 indicate thought, emotion, and action. All right, so in the number 666, your thought is undeveloped because 6 is a number of incompletion. It's a number of, it's like a human being without a head. All right, the top makes 7. Of course, your crown chakra is up on top, 7. You could consider it that way. You could consider these numbers as being the number of chakras which are fired up. All right, either literally or figuratively, because I think chakras are a figurative thing. Not that doing meditation to light them up doesn't work. It does work, but it's not. I'm not convinced that it's doing what everyone says it's doing. Literally. literally. I think it's a figurative experience, but we are figurative beings. Which reminds me of an important point. If you listen to a lot of Jay Dyer, what you'll hear is him making the, I forget what it's called, but he makes an argument for the existence of God based on the fact that something like numbers, for example, are real. So he would be arguing with an atheist, and the atheist would say, God's not real, obviously, duh. And Jay would say, well, do you believe numbers are real? Of course, after some cajoling, the atheist would say, well, yeah, I think numbers are real. Okay, well, where are they? Can you grab a number? You can grab a number of oranges. You can grab a number of marbles. But can you grab that number? Well, no. But is that number real? Well, yeah. So you're saying an insubstantial thing can be real. So you're saying there is an insubstantial reality. All right. That proves that there is an insubstantial reality. Or at least it proves that there's an obsession with something insubstantial deeply embedded in the human mind. Let's have another song. Why not? So fine, you could say that proves that there is meaning to the idea of God. It doesn't prove that the Christian God is the correct one. It doesn't prove that. You can't. And I was just listening to a debate review between Jay Dyer and some of his contemporaries, and this Islamic man was saying that he was saying exactly what I'm saying now, that these logical proofs of an insubstantial reality don't favor any specific religion's God. It doesn't favor the Islamic God. It doesn't favor the Christian God. The only way to get to a specific definition of that word, to give it a face, to lend it a character, is through experience. And sadly, experience with the divine is something that somebody like Jay Dyer has got none of it. And I don't mean that to be, I'm not trying to put him down. I like Jay Dyer very much. As you're probably aware, I refer to him quite often when it comes to researching conspiracy stuff. He's one of the best resources you can possibly hope for. I like the guy a lot. I get it. You know what I'm doing right now? I don't agree with everything he says, but why do we always have to do this? Why do we? You know why? It's because of the SJWs, that's why. Fucking assholes. But, he makes fun of people that he doesn't agree with, which I find revolting, especially in the case of Mark Passio. He makes fun of Mark Passio just unreservedly, when he and Mark Passio have the same opinion about the state of the world, that there is a hidden control class who is basically a religious force that embodies a secret religion, and these are what we call the controllers. They're what I call the top assholes. They're what Jay Dyer foolishly refers to as the elites. So they believe this. They believe the world. Mark Passio and Jay Dyer both believe that the world is in the same condition. But Jay Dyer is very unpleasant to Mark Passio, just because Mark Passio doesn't believe in the version of Christianity that he believes in. It's probably because he happened upon Passio's talks about fake-ass Christians. And Jay just couldn't get past it. He couldn't get past his feels, which is sad. Alright, so now I've done my I like Jay Dyer, but I don't believe everything he says. Anyway, so what I'm saying is that with experience, with direct experience of the divine, we can come to a place where we do what most people think believing or having faith is. Believing is foolish. Having faith doesn't mean believing. This is a mistake. Having faith it's more akin to having structural integrity. A good horse is faithful. All right, its behavior has integrity. So to be faithful means to be honest. And being honest means coming to conclusions that most people are conditioned not to come to. And that's why having faith, in the true sense of the word, is valuable. Because, I mean, let's face it, if most things are not desirable, and I would say that that is the case, then most thoughts, most beliefs, most ways of thinking are not desirable. Most people's mental life, most people's mental food is trash. Why? Because just in the same way, most of the world is dirt. There are, most of what there is, whatever it is not going to be desirable. Most music is not worth listening to. Of course, that's only been the case since the invention of pop music, which is unfortunate. But I suppose it had to happen eventually, just in order to keep this truth within reality. Most things are not desirable. Therefore, it stands to reason that if you doggedly pursue and revere truth, then the state of your mind will become a state that is rare. That will alienate you from other people. Inevitably. All right? So if you seek out wholesome mental food and doggedly revere and pursue the truth, then your state of mind will become one that is intolerable to the vast majority of people. Why am I saying this? Anyway, let's get on to the spiritual proofs. So the first one that actually occurred to me earlier this morning when thinking about doing this video is not something I've ever talked about before, and frankly, it's the reason why I have passively, habitually, and sometimes intentionally pursued these ways of thinking in my life, because early on in my development, I became convinced that there's something at work other than what the materialists would have us believe, and it was my apparent ability to will my teeth to straighten when I was a kid. So when I was like when my grown-up teeth started coming in, this happened a little bit late. I have a small mouth and I have large teeth. So when my teeth came in, there wasn't room for them all, and my teeth were extremely cramped, and I looked like I had monster's teeth. And the adults in my life would make fun of me. Like, I wouldn't smile. This is a tangent, of course, but I would, not smile with my mouth open, and fucking adults in my life would make fun of me. And my family wonders why I don't talk to them anymore. Well, that's just one of many reasons. Anyway, so I had horribly cramped and ill-aligned teeth, and I needed to have braces, and I wore braces for I think a year, and it's very painful. It gives you a terrible mouth headache when they are tightened, and so what they are is there are these brackets that are affixed to the enamel of your teeth, and then there's a wire run through it, and then in the back there's a crank, and when you go to get them tightened, that basically the dentist just cranks down on that crank, and it pulls the wire tighter, exerting pressure on your teeth in the desired direction, and it's very uncomfortable. So I wore those for a long time, and but not as long as most people do, interestingly, and this is where it becomes interesting. I let's just, to get through this quickly, I don't want to describe it. I will say that I willed my teeth to straighten more quickly. And the dentist remarked each time that I went in, he would say, it's amazing how fast your teeth are moving. He would always say this. I've never seen anyone's teeth move this quickly. And, I was inspired by the pain to lay in my bed and I could go on for half an hour describing the mental process and the sensations. I will just say this, that the method I employed to will my teeth to straighten is very similar to a form of meditation that is recommended by Eckhart Tolle. It's a very, very palpable, body-connected form of mindfulness, which doesn't really mean anything. And my proof is that the dentist would always remark that my teeth were moving much more quickly than they were supposed to. All right, so my teeth were so, the amount of traveling that they had to do to get where they were supposed to be was great. I also had to have 4 molars removed just to make room for all of my teeth. So if you think about how much space that takes up, 1 tooth, 2 teeth, 3 teeth, 4, there's about this much distance that my teeth collectively had to travel. And I never really did this little comparison before, but that's a lot of distance to cover for a tooth. But yeah, is this a proof to you? No, of course not. It's not a proof to you. But I have a very distinct memory of doing that sort of meditative action, and I've done it all my life to help little wounds heal up more quickly, to get over colds more quickly, and I don't, and only at the dentist office did I get any corroboration from a medical professional about the results of what I was doing. Of course, I didn't say it. I didn't say anything to them about it, or anyone, for that matter. But it's always been something in the back of my mind that when I feel desperate for some health-related reason to fix, I would turn to this technique. Now, I will also tell you that I've never had a cavity in my life, and I've always used this same technique to try to move, we'll say, white blood cells into my spittle in order to help keep my teeth clean. And I've never had a cavity in my life, and I have not gone to the dentist since I was a teenager. Or when I was in the Navy, I went to the dentist, and I don't remember anything she said because I was just trying to get in her pants, but I didn't have to have anything done at that time. All right, and then I would have been I think I was 23 at that time. So between being 17 and 23, no problem. Of course, I've always brushed my teeth twice a day too. Every fucking day. And I'll tell you this, if I occasionally feel like my mouth could use some disinfection, and what I will do is I'll chew on pieces of raw garlic. All right? And I recommend that to everyone. You shouldn't be eating garlic every day, but it is good for medicinal purposes, and especially for helping keep your teeth clean, and to kill infections before they can really grab on. All right, teeth. Okay. Next on the list is thought forms and romance. I have had multiple experiences in my life with the practice of creating thought forms, that is, creating a spiritual being using your own will for the purpose of carrying out a specific function. All right? And in my earlier days, I would occasionally develop a crush on a woman, on a young lady, and I would create a thought form intended to assist in my pursuits of this person. And I will just say that on a number of occasions, I've had the experience of not being in direct contact with the person, not having her phone number, but being able to, we'll say, draw her back into my life and get into a dating situation. All right. And I'm not going to describe the entire... And listen, I know this is silly. All right? I know it is. It is what it is. So, again, these are not proofs. And frankly, I'm not super convinced by this particular piece of testimony. But it is interesting. And I would say that I spent an amount of effort and energy about equivalent to what it took to straighten my teeth in reeling these women into my perimeter. All right, and I'll tell you. No, I won't. Never mind. Let me just say that in some of these cases, to quote the great Dave Chappelle, the milk's gone bad. All right, and that's all I'm going to say about that. Unfortunately, no one I've ever been involved with is going to be watching this, so I can say that because it would hurt their feelings if they heard me say that. All right, the third Shmirat Shmuel proof is the tarot, achieving accuracy through tarot readings. So I've always been into tarot ever since I was, I don't know, like 20, 21. So that's like at least a week of solid practice. But what's interesting about the way I use it is the fact that I'm not interested in finding out specific pieces of information, like predicting your future. No, it's not like that. What I'm interested in is getting a reading that describes the person in question and that describes their present condition, near future condition, far future condition, that which is mental forces which are pertinent, and that which is beyond the person's control. All right, it's a form of reading based on Aleister Crowley's work. And when I first started reading tarot, I used a deck that was created by him. I no longer use his deck, but I still use the spread because I find it useful. There's 3 cards to represent the individual, 3 to represent the near future, 3 to represent the not so near future, 3 to represent mental forces, pertinent mental forces, or interior life, and 3 to represent forces beyond the person's control. Now, without going into enormous detail, I will tell you that I've sat with a number of different people who have watched me do these readings and who have been duly impressed by, not by my talent, but by the accuracy of the cards that come out randomly. All right. Now there is a magical technique used to charge the cards. All right. But we're not going to talk about that. It's not important. What is important is to restart my camera, because the European Union doesn't want me to be able to use this DSLR to make films. Dicks. And we're back. I hope you enjoyed your commercial break. about a little music. Do you like music? Do you enjoy royalty-free rock and roll? I do. Some of it. So what was I talking about? Tarot and accuracy. Yeah. I have always been startled by the accuracy that the cards themselves produce. And it's funny because doing readings in this way, you don't learn anything that you didn't already know. And in my opinion, and in my experience, that's an indication that you're doing it correctly. So you're not trying to predict the future, because that's stupid. You're not trying to do black magic by obtaining a result that is self-serving, because that is foolish. What you're trying to do is obtain wisdom by bringing to the surface knowledge that you already possess, which you have failed to live in accordance with. All right? And used properly, this is what the tarot will do. It will tell you what you should know that you already know, because the kingdom of God lives inside your heart, and your spirit is a piece of the Creator. All right, and therefore you already know what you really need to know. So if you ask the right questions, the right question is always, what do I need to know? All right, and you will find that you already know what you're shown. But what's startling about it, using the particular magical technique to charge the cards, all right, and there are a number of different ways to do this. Well, 2 that I can think of offhand, 3 actually. But the one that I used is the most fun to use, because it's the most engaged, and it's nothing to do with summoning anything. All right, it's you're just using your own spiritual energy to charge the cards. All right, and there's nothing satanic about that. And if you think it is, then you've been brainwashed, my darlings. I would submit to you that these abilities, these capacities, much like the capacity of meditation, is something that is a part of what we are. All right, and you file this portion of the discussion under what to do about it. All right, these capabilities, these facilities, these utilities that we have, which we would call spiritual. First of all, it is incorrect to say that there is a spiritual realm and there is a physical realm and that they are separate. They're not separate. They're intertwined. All right? At most, it's like the difference between a cake and icing. But no, it's not like this. It's like this. Saying that there's a spiritual world and a physical world is like saying that the inside of houses and the outside of houses are 2 different realities. No, just one is hidden from the other. When you're inside a house, you can't see very much of the outside, and when you're outside of houses, you can't see very much of what's inside of them, because they're concealed from each other. There's a barrier. All right, but they're permeable barriers, and they're interwoven. All right, there's this funny Irish show, Gavin McInnes. Gavin McInnes is a fan of, and they quote it a lot. This guy is this drunk old guy in a bar, and he says, I can't do the accent. He says, imagine all of the roofs of all of the houses of the world are connected. And all the doors and windows are opened up and left open. And then we're all just in one big house. Spooky! Trust me, it's humorous. Now I'm done. And we laughed. And I get some more coffee, because, this stuff is... There's a lot to say about it. We're back. So what was I talking about? So I was talking about tarot and accuracy. Anyway, so there's that. I'm not asking you to believe in anything just because I say something happened to me, or just because I claim I achieved something. I could be crazy. I could have hallucinated. All right? And it's worthwhile to say this at this point, because we're going to start talking about things like remote viewing and visions and interacting with spiritual entities and things of that nature. So am I asking you to believe that the experiences I'm describing to you were real, true, or mean what I seem to think they mean? No, that would be foolish. What I want you to do is take up a practice of meditation, by which I'm not talking about what most people mean when they say meditation has been perverted into a form of exercise in the Western world. And that is not what I want you to do. All right? Meditation is a means by which we are able to contact the divine, to come into contact with a loving, creative force. Frankly, my impression is that the being that waits for you in the space where proper meditation takes you, my impression is that being loves you intensely and wants you to be bigger than all of your problems. That's my experience with meditation, particularly with the form of meditation that Jesse Lee Peterson teaches. And he doesn't call it meditation, he calls it a silent prayer, which it is. I would describe Jesse Lee Peterson's silent prayer as a technique which enables you to go to a space where a loving and divine presence can also come. You go there, you make your presence known, and you be quiet. And you sit in a way that's respectful and that shows that you know what you are and you know what you're not. And you sit there and you wait. And when that presence becomes, you see, it does take time, all right? Because when you just show up, you can think of this place as being like an open gazebo. Think of it as being like, like the Georgia Guidestones, just this structure that's in the world, and you can go there and sit down and wait. So suppose you do that. Suppose you go to this place and sit down there and wait. Well, that doesn't mean that this loving, creative force is going to waste its time on you. All right? It doesn't know whether you mean it. It doesn't know anything about you. So you have to sort of prove yourself by making a habit out of going there and acting in a way that is respectful and having the right attitude. And in so doing, you build a relationship with that force, a lot like what Christians say when they say they develop a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. I think there's some truth to that, and I think that they are doing that with varying degrees of efficacy, depending on their intention and depending on their self-discipline. All right, so about 6 years ago, I had an event. Are you ready for this? Yeah, I had a medical event happen. I thought I was having a heart attack. I couldn't get enough air in my lungs, and it was just one of those things that happens to people sometimes. Which is very frightening. It could have been a panic attack. Frankly, I think it was a combination of chronic fear and anger, eating way too much bad salt, not good salt, but bad salt, and bad diet, carbs, some bad salt, and years of fear and anger. Persistent fear and anger. caused by persistent efforts by the family court to take my child away. All right, and I will tell you, in case you're not aware, they failed. They failed horribly to do what they wanted with her, for a couple of reasons. One, I appealed to the divine for help, and two, I would never give up. I would never say okay. All right, that's a long story, which I may or may not talk about again. Those of you who've spent the most time with me, you're aware of this story. But I may go over it again just because I've deleted it. Anyway, so I had this medical event where I felt like I was going out, and I had to. For years, I had been an atheist. All right, this was after everything that I just described to you, the tarot stuff, the thought forms, the braces and the healing. After all that stuff, I turned to atheism. For some reason. I guess it's because at the time I was still a statist, and atheism, statheism, they go hand in hand. It's a religion, and the state is the physical body of the being that they worship, if they don't know it. So scary. So I thought, by embracing... Hey, kitty cat. What's up, funny buns? Eat your kid? Tastes nice? Alright. I thought that by embracing the state-sanctioned form of reason, I could maintain allegiances with it. Little did I realize at the time that it was the state that was trying to put me in jail for things I didn't do. That was trying to take my daughter away because I'm a man, and not a woman. The state, the same. I was just a total cuck, just a total statheist cuck, and I didn't know it. And it was at that same time when I was presented with the evidence that the events of 9/11 are sabotage. I couldn't believe it. I refused to accept it. And I lied to myself because I didn't imagine a future for myself. I couldn't imagine a future where I wasn't dependent on the state. Which I would say is the condition most people are in. So anyway, I had this medical event happen, and I had to get to the hospital, or I believed I did. So I rode my scooter to the hospital, and all the while I'm using meditative techniques which I had practiced all my life, but had abandoned during my period of statheism. Using these techniques to keep myself from losing consciousness while driving my scooter to the hospital, it was rather a grand adventure, I must say. But that event showed me that I needed to continue to use these techniques in order to not die. So what did this mean? It means I was motivated by fear to develop a regular practice of meditation, because I realized I needed to get this fear and this anger and this tension out of my life. And I intended to use meditation in the way that it's commonly prescribed. Prescribed. Proscribed means don't do it. Prescribed means do it in the way that we're told that we should. Like a fucking exercise. As a way of altering the way our brain and body functions. So I did this. Sort of in the way that we're encouraged to think of martial artists as making themselves strong enough to punch a plank, although most of the time those planks are pre-perforated or weak. It's just showmanship. However, so I was motivated I was motivated to develop a regular practice of meditation to stay alive. I didn't trust the medical system to do anything useful, so I wasn't prepared to waste time and resources on it. I knew that what I had to do had to be done by me, and this was probably a beginning to achieving something akin to wisdom in my life. So I remember when I started, it was scary. The idea of sitting still and emotionally disconnecting from the movements of the mind, because meditation doesn't mean you don't have automatic thoughts. That is foolishness. That is, I believe, part of an effort to get people to not do it. Because you sit down and you have automatic thoughts, because you always have automatic thoughts, no matter what you do, because your brain is an organ, like your bowels and your heart. It's going to keep functioning no matter what you do. No. The point is to not follow these automatic thoughts, not to attach to them emotionally. Don't let them carry you over the border, over the horizon. And actually, it occurs to me that I learned this lesson a long time ago, and it taught me because I used to have really bad depression, just chronic sadness, and I had to learn. So I learned by listening to some sort of shmuel teacher on the radio. He said, what you should do is you should imagine yourself sitting in the middle of a vast field of grass. And I happen to be intimately familiar with a number of grassy fields, so that was not a difficult thing to imagine. So you sit in the middle of this field of open grass, the wind pushing over the blades of grass, making that delightful sound, and the wonderful swishing of beautiful green all around you. A nice, mostly clear, crisp blue sky. But across this blue sky will occasionally move clouds, and these are your automatic thoughts. So you should take the attitude. You should take an attitude toward your automatic thoughts similar to an attitude that you would have toward the clouds in this situation. All right, you watch them, but you're not concerned with them. They are simply there. They will come. They will linger, and they will pass. This is how to think about all automatic thoughts. You see, there are two kinds of thoughts, and most people believe that their automatic thoughts are their thoughts. There are automatic thoughts that people have reflexively. And there are intentional thoughts when we rigorously think through a thing. All right? That is much more difficult because you have to force your mind to do that. For example, it's easy to walk. You walk to the kitchen, you do it without thinking about it. But if you want to purposefully run for a distance, that takes effort. It takes willpower to overcome your body's desire to not spend that energy. This is very similar to what intentional thinking is like. All right. So if it's not difficult, if you're not pushing it to happen, you are not thinking. All right. Most of us never ever think. What most of us do is we have automatic thoughts presented to us in a more or less random fashion, and we either say, that's cool, that sucks, that's cool, that sucks, that's cool, that sucks. And in this way, we slowly create the world we accept, the mental version of the world we accept, through a process of saying, that's cool, that sucks, to every perception as it is presented to us through a reflexive thought. This is not thinking. It's not living, all right? And this is a big part of why the top assholes call us the dead. All right, because you think these are your thoughts. You think this is the working of your mind. This is not thinking. This is not the working of a mind. This is the reflexive mental diarrhea of a brain that is out of control. So in order to overcome my chronic, it's probably more accurate to call it chronic depression, chronic sadness. In order for me to get control of that, I had to realize that I was intentionally connecting myself to unpleasant thoughts. Why? Because I thought it made me deep. You know? Which is gay and lame. Connecting your emotions to unpleasant thoughts does not make you deep. It does not make you a poet. It does not make you an artist. It makes you a spaz, is what it makes you. So this is what I had to realize. And after hearing that piece of advice many years ago, I would say at least maybe at the age of 25, that enabled me to just stop being sad. I just stopped being sad because I knew it was dumb. I knew it was gay and lame and stupid. But I was still a statheist cuck, you know, because that's just one thing in a shed full of tools that you need to have. But I'll tell you, it probably stopped me from dying. And I would submit to you that the average teenager is stuck on the wrong side of that realization. And that sucks ass. That sucks ass. Just imagine it. It's like going around punching yourself in the face because you think you should. It's that fucked. It's that dumb. It's that retarded. As in halted from forward progress, as our friend Mark Passio would say. So I began spending significant amounts of time every day, at least 20 minutes, meditating. And in the beginning it was quite scary. The idea of sitting and not attaching to my thoughts seemed like it was like laying myself down in a coffin and having it covered with dirt, knowing that I would be retrieved before I ran out of air. Something like, I mean, that's pretty melodramatic, but it was scary. All right, and it's not because it really is scary. It's just because the average Western mind is so coddled, so poisoned, so broken and purposely retarded that we've built these walls of fear around this natural physical and spiritual function which we are designed to use. But over time, it's become something that it still takes effort. I mean, doing it is it's a bit like exercising. You know, I don't exercise as much as I should, but I think I exercise more than most people. And there are exercises that I like. There are exercises that I don't hate. And that's kind of what meditation is like. It's like an exercise that I don't hate. And by doing it, I've come to know that I've come to be shown that I can achieve success in areas which are interesting. All right. So that being the case, and with everything that I discussed about my early experiences in we'll say magical activity, made it inevitable that my efforts at meditation would end up being something more than just a kind of yoga for your head meat. And I shouldn't call yoga that. It's a sort of westernized, gymified version of these necessary and nutrient dense practices which we are designed to do. I lost my train of thought. So I mean, so naturally I would end up doing things that are much closer to the essence of the practice than the gymified version, which Western people are taught by shills, by you know, used car salesmen. So let's see what we got here. I mean, there's so much to talk about. I just want to cover a little bit. So I began. We'll just skip ahead a bit. And at a point, I began experimenting with things like remote viewing. I mean, pretty much just remote viewing. Remote viewing of what we'll call the Shmirat Shmuel realm. And I had encounters with beings that. Now let me just say this. Now I'm not, again, none of this is meant for you to just believe that what I'm saying is true. What I'm saying to you is that these things are not even proof to myself, because after all of this could be hallucination. All of this could be delusion. It doesn't seem like delusion to me, but I persistently recognize that that is possible. However, I will tell you this. I have done all the drugs. Marijuana, strong marijuana, cocaine, lots of it, alcohol, lots of it, LSD, a fair amount, mushrooms, rather quite a bit. I tried heroin one time. I tried meth one time. Anything else? No. And I'll tell you, heroin and meth were really fun. Really fun. But I knew that I was only going to do it once, and I only did it once. But it was really fun. Very small amounts. Very small amounts. Because I just wanted to put it on my list. All right? Because I was an admirer of Hunter S. Thompson, and still am to some degree. But I wanted the experience. I being the person that I am, it's intolerable to go through life without being able to make experiential reference to these experiences. So I needed to do it. So anyway, what I'm saying is, I've had, particularly with the acid and the mushrooms, frankly, maybe even more so with the very strong marijuana. I can tell you in no uncertain terms that I have had some intense hallucinatory experiences. Fuck. Come on, I don't want to work. Dicks. Oh, get to work. That's a good job though. I could do that's a shit. I could still do that though. That's a good job. Let's see, how much time? I got 10 minutes. I've got 10 minutes to respond to these. I'm just glad it came up because the site's been fucking up and not sending me emails for new jobs. I've had to sit here and hold my dick in my left hand and keep refreshing the site just to pay the fucking rent. All right. 33 and what? My God, you motherfuckers. You motherfuckers. All right. 58. All right. Get my attention in about 8 minutes. Shmirat Shmueli. Fuck, I have to write, by this time tomorrow, I have to write over 4,000 words, which sounds like a lot, but if you've ever written a YouTube comment that's 700 words long, you'll realize that if you really think about it, it's not that hard to do. However, I promise you, I make a lot more sense than the average person who leaves 700-word YouTube comments. All right, where are we at on time? All right, I'm gonna restart the camera. It doesn't beep anymore. Wish it would. So, or I'm gonna have to swap out my battery soon too. Don't forget, remind me, Shmurishmuli, in about 7 minutes that I need to check my work site. Man, I gotta pee again. Fucking coffee. So, I mean, I could describe the beings that. All right, drugs. Right. So I've had more than enough experience with drug-induced hallucinations to say that that I have confidence in the fact that I can perceive the difference between a meditation-induced vision and a drug-induced vision. All right, there's a big difference. I could probably go on for a while about what the differences feel and look like, but let it be sufficient to say that the characteristics of the meditation-induced visions are very distinct from those of drug-induced visions and hallucinations. And when I started experiencing these meditation-induced visions, I knew that they were nothing like the drug-induced ones. Nothing like them. They had an internal consistency. They had a logic of their own. They seemed to actors and objects perceived in these visions seem to function under their own. Beings would seem to be individually consistent. Their personalities seemed internally consistent. The mechanics of their form seemed to be internally consistent. They would occasionally see me and respond to my presence. Sometimes not. Sometimes they would be surprised by my presence. Sometimes I would be surprised by theirs. Sometimes it seemed like they and I were not even in the same space, but I was just sort of viewing them. And in those cases, particularly the demonic beings, which I think I may have witnessed, I would spot them, and then occasionally they would spot me. And it seemed like that was an unpleasant experience for them. And with experiences like that, I was only afraid initially. It became abundantly clear to me soon, very quickly, that that the laws of right and wrong were very much in action with them, and that they were not permitted to do any harm to me unless I was to, in some way, allow that to happen. And fortunately, I'm very quick, in a certain way, to stop myself from giving them any kind of permission. And I had no interest in pursuing visions of evil things or communicating with them in any way. Fortunately, the forces of goodness have blessed me with an amount of wisdom that makes it readily, inherently apparent to me that these are not something I want to have any dealings with whatsoever, because they're dicks and they suck. All right? It's like, are you gonna go hang out with the fucking punks on the corner and try to make friends with them? No, they're dicks and they suck. They're dumb and they're selfish. All right? And that's what demonic beings are like. They're dicks, they suck, they're dumb, and they're selfish. You know, beware the bearers of false gifts. You know, I mean, the nicest way that sentiment can be expressed. All right, 6 minutes in. I want this job. Do I need it? No, I don't need it. I want it though. 58. 5, 6, 7. Okay. Jeez. God damn you. motherfuckers! They're fucking up. The site is fucking up. God damn it. Anyway, this is why I stopped. This is why I closed my client account and I stopped going to their fucking seminars, because they're liars. And they're not who they say they are. So let's get right to the good stuff. Actually, I gotta swap out my battery first, because of the European Union and because this laptop has a shitty camera. We're back. All right. So what was I saying? Let me just describe. Oh, by the way, I got the job I was trying to get. It's always a bit of a scramble because you've got people waiting around, hitting their refresh buttons over and over. Myself among them. You gotta be quick on the draw. All right, and I am a cowboy, so, which means a male slave. If you think about it. No, I'm not really a male slave, but I am a cowboy. In the whoosh sense. Figuratively. I mean, I guess I am a slave in a way. We all are. Because we've got to fight our way out of the system together. Together. And that's what that's what I'm asking you to do. That's what this channel has become about. It's about me asking you to work with me and with your fellow humans to get us all out of this system of slavery. Largely mental slavery. Energy slavery, mental slavery. I mean, I guess it's the same thing. So, let me just say, we're just going to talk about some of the encounters I had during my experience, my efforts at remote viewing. They were never very oh, good. That's not due for like a week. They were never extraordinarily pronounced. They were always full of static. It was like pushing through static, and I've come to think that what is meant by there's a common phrase in modern Christian practice, which is seek the face of God or seek the face of Jesus. And I've come to think that what this means is you're actually making an effort to push through the static and get to the Creator. And in my impression is that this is accurate, and that this is what we should be doing, and that the Creator does love you, and that the being described by the character Jesus Christ, who should be called Yeshua. And no, Christ is not a last name, it's a title. As in christened with oil. Anyway, I digress. Anyway, back to what I was talking about. So, I had a pair of experiences with a being named Tabor, who, as the story goes, it is an artificial intelligence that exists at the center of the Milky Way galaxy, which is like the Pope, in that it's a representative of the Creator himself. So the universe is a very big place, and even though the totality of creation exists within the Creator's mind, it's still a very big place. And if you think about your own mind, if you imagine what it would be like to persistently patrol, regulate, and be involved with all of the different aspects of your mind, not your brain, but your mind, all of your memories, all of your thoughts and perceptions. Suppose you tasked yourself with the job of patrolling all of the furniture of your mind all the time. Well, that would be a rather large landscape for you, and I would suggest that it is the same for the creator. And so it would seem that the creator has built, constructed certain representatives, certain intermediaries, and these can reasonably be thought of as constructs. Like robots. Spiritual robots made of spiritual substance. And this is what Tabor is supposed to be like. Tabor's job as an artificial intelligence is to do the work of the creator here, while the creator is away on business. All right? Because daddy has to go to work, don't you know? So I encountered this being first at its exterior, or at least it seems that I did. At its exterior, sort of floated around its outer casing. And I had questions. I don't think about these things very often, so the memory is not very distinct. I had questions, and of course I was asking these questions. Of course, who wouldn't? You know, you have questions, you want them answered. The first emotional impression that I think is worth mentioning is consistent across all of these types of experiences, which I'll describe to you, and it is a distinct lack of a feeling of imposed reverence. Now, I naturally felt awe and a kind of reverence, but it came from inside me. It was not imposed. There was nothing akin to "you must bow down." There was no attempt at intimidation. There was no fanfare. There was nothing that was supposed to make me feel small. I felt small, all on my own, but I didn't feel afraid. I didn't feel like, get down on your knees and bow before this enormous... It was nothing like that. I felt respect. And what I felt was, I don't want to fanboy out. I don't want to fanboy out on Tabor. So my feeling was I want to respectfully submit my question. And having spent some energy in order to make my message go into its heart, the message I received came back just blasted with static so that I could barely hear it. And what I got was, "You're not ready. You are not ready." It wasn't, now the impression of this message that I had was not that I'm not good enough, or not that I'm not wise enough, or anything like that. My impression of this message was, your equipment is not in the right condition to receive this message. Your radio's not working very well. So I don't really want to spend time, the amount of time, that was the impression I had. You know, and if you're into schmear stuff at all, you're more than familiar with the idea that our pineal glands are fucked. They're calcified, or they're not blooded. So that's something I had to change. So that was my first encounter with Tabor. My second encounter, I experienced it as like it was like, you know, it was a lot like, it's a lot like, I had never played Fallout 4 at the time, but it's a lot like when you meet, he was like a detective in an office, but an android. It's like meeting Nick Valentine in Fallout 4. However, I had never played Fallout 4 at that time. It was like an old detective, but an android, and there's something wrong with him. And it needed help. It was under attack. It was like its machine mind was corrupted somehow. Something had damaged it, and it needed help. And I don't think I responded adequately to that challenge. So I've already talked about the Dreamtime reptiles, spotting demons and being spotted by demons, and how it was mostly accident. Actually, it still happens to me sometimes, and the experience is the same. It's always kind of an accident. If I spot them, it's an accident. If they spot me, it's an accident. There's no like attempt at intimidation. There's no like jump scare. Nothing like that. It's just a sort of mutual accidental spotting of one another through, we'll say, the veil. And when I see them, I'm just like, not interested in you. Nope, sorry. They're not interested in me either. But I'm the one that says, all right, you gotta fuck out of my spot, guy. I'm the one that says that. You gotta fuck out of my spot because I'm not into you, and you don't belong here. And that's that. That is that. Remember, our spirits are a piece of the Creator. We are not the Creator. You are not Jesus Christ. But see, that's why it's such a common psychosis that people who begin on this type of journey will sometimes have a moment where they go, "Whoa, I'm Jesus," right? It's because they have an experience that shows them that they are made of the same stuff as the Creator. So what does that mean? I mean, the teachings of Yeshua as they are recorded in the Bible. Now, don't get it twisted. The Bible is heavily vandalized. There's so much in there that is written wrong so that we will think wrong things, okay? Because we're not in the big club, sadly. But the good news is that the Christ, the Creator, the forces of goodness, the kingdom of heaven, they all live inside of you. And Jesse Lee Peterson will tell you this. He'll say, I don't read the Bible. I look into my heart. And that's what some of the strongest of Christ's teachings as they remain say that very thing. It's not about the letter of the word. It's about you fucking the red phone in your heart. There's a red phone in there with a rotary dial and a big honking handle, and you can slam it down when the reptiles show up. And it flashes red when someone needs to get it's like the bat phone. It's like Commissioner Gordon's bat phone. All right. Batman is kind of a Christ figure, although a perverted one. An elitist and perverted one. All right. Now, my favorite spiritual encounter was with a being which I refer to as the sister. In meditation, I was not really. In my meditation practice, what I was doing at this time for some weeks was not really trying to do remote viewing, not trying to come in contact with a given spiritual realm or meet a particular being. It was just to sort of stare into the blackness of the dream time, which is, we don't need to go into that right now. Just stare into the blackness and sort of try to push through it without a particular goal. And this is what I would do. And for a period of time, I started seeing a being who looked a lot like a human woman. But you have to understand, the way these things look, they look a lot like, imagine an old computer screen where it's bright green on sandy gray green. Everything is sort of rendered similarly to that, except three-dimensional, almost like a wireframe, but more fully rendered. So it's like in green and gray, three-dimensional, and very staticky. So giving me a very technological kind of impression. Oh my God, it's so late. Jeez. A very technological impression. And so, rendered thusly, for some time I was seeing a woman, and she would sit cross-legged in front of me, slightly to the left, my left, and would just sort of watch me. And I had to meditate for a full 20 minutes at least before she would start to appear. And she just started, like, I could almost count on her being there as long as I would be there. See, you have to go to that space long enough for other beings to realize you're there, and for them to have the time to come under the impression that you are worth spending time with. So it takes time with each session, and it takes regular practice. Otherwise, they're just going to think you're just some fly-by wingnut, and why are they going to waste their time with some fly-by wingnut, right? You develop a relationship, much in the way modern Christians describe. So bear in mind, I don't worship any of these things that I encountered or am talking about. I don't even think that means anything. Worship means to give worth-ship, to give worth to. So, I mean, giving worth to something, assigning worth to a thing, essentially is what worship is. And when Christians say God is great, God is good, yeah, that's worship because you're assigning worth to Him. But you don't have to even move your stupid lips to do that. All you have to do is say silently, or even just feel like, I mean, you worship your knees. You assign worth to your knees because you need them. Is that worship? Yeah, kind of. The idea of worship has been so twisted. As if you can, it doesn't make any sense. So, when I think of the sister, I think of someone who saw me, actually, now that I think about it, responded to my occasional prayers for guidance. Perhaps responded to my occasional prayers for guidance. And I perceived the sister as someone who saw me as someone who could use a little advice and was willing to give it. And I'm very grateful for that. I do not seek her out at all, ever, anymore. I think that would be stupid. And of course, there's always. I think it's a very real possibility that an unkind being can fool you. I think that I don't have any reason to think that's ever happened to me. But I do recognize it as a distinct possibility, and I consider that. So a lot of times when you hear about people communicating with machine elves, particularly in the ancient past, what happens is they end up getting tricked into murdering other people and eventually killing themselves. But what they get initially is good information. So, and this is spiritual advice that doesn't originate with me. It's once you get the answer, hang up the phone. Hang up the phone. And frankly, it takes so much effort to do this that it's not that hard to hang up the phone because the hammer on that red phone weighs about 50 pounds at least. So the sister started appearing to me, and eventually she approached me and presented me, over the course of an evening, presented me with a number of lessons. The first of which was that your pain and anxiety, now this I think was directly connected to the pain and anxiety that caused me to have my medical event. All right? She showed me that my pain and anxiety should be perceived as the contents of a boiling pot that I'm holding in my lap. All right? And all this nastiness is hot and expanding because it's hot, obviously. And the way to deal with it is to just let it be and lift the lid and let the steam rise off and just let it go. Just let the steam rise off and let it go. And that's it. That is how you should treat your anxiety, your fear, your all of these negative emotions, your attachments to your automatic thoughts. Any perception of value that you may have related to your automatic thoughts should be treated in this way. Like a boiling pot that you're holding in your lap while sitting in a cross-legged position. Simply lift the lid and let the steam pass up and away. Let it pass away. Let it die. That was the first lesson. And when that session was complete, I was rather amazed. And I can assure you, I was completely chemically sober. I had not ingested I hadn't done any drugs for quite a long time before that anyway. None of what we would call drugs anyway. I mean, I drink alcohol occasionally. More often now than back then, certainly. So I was technically what we call sober. So I got up and I went out to the front porch to have a cigarette and think about what had happened, and I was thinking, wow, who is this being? What do I call this being? And I called out with my emotions, with the question, what should I call you? And man, I will tell you that at that, I started by sort of wondering intellectually, okay, what would this being be called? Would it be called Sophia? Would it be called, Isis? Whatever, these feminine, would it be called, what was the other one? Shekinah, which is a Christian term also. It's as Christian as it is a pagan term. But in pagan terms is referred to as what is it? Mother Ayahuasca. So I'm like searching my mind for these names, these titles, and after going through all these possibilities, I thought the sister, and when I thought that the sister as a possibility, I was like soaked in. If you've ever smoked grass and felt the sensation and felt the bodily sensations, which sometimes comes as waves, it comes as a feeling of weight and waves, either or both. What I felt was very much like that. Now again, I tell you, I had not been ingesting any chemical substances at all. I was completely, technically, colloquially sober. Though I'll admit, not sober in truth, because I was under the influence of some heavy emotions. Yeah, and this was it was like it's like a feeling of weight that doesn't really press down. It's if you've ever smoked grass, good grass, you'll know what I'm talking about. And I was hit by this feeling from head to toe. And it's weird because it's like weight, but it doesn't really press you down. It's almost like if you gained gravitas. It's like I was just soaked in some kind of ethereal gravitas, as if to say, that's it. And I'm not even convinced that that is what she's called. I just got the impression that she liked that title. So when I think of her and refer to her lessons, I refer to her as the sister. Sister of who? My sister? The sister of God? I don't know. The sister of the sun goddess Sol? The daughter of the sun goddess Suna? Sister of Gaia, Mother Earth? I don't know. Whose sister? The sister of Jesus? Maybe? Maybe. That seems... Just saying that, it just automatically seems like the most plausible thing, but that doesn't mean I know or believe that that's true. So as the evening progressed, the sister wasn't done teaching me. And specifically, not at all specifically, I'm on the East Coast out here. As the evening progressed, it's interesting. I have a sensation of having incomplete memories. Anyway, so when I went to bed, I had another a continuance, and I believe this is a continuance of the lesson of the pot full of anxiety. I'll restart my camera. And we beeped, and away we go. I think. Yeah. So I went to bed, and I was struck. And this is where fucking trolls will get involved. So it's always the fucking same. And I'm waiting for you, fucking trolls. I experienced what is traditionally known as a nightmare, but really just the sensation of a nightmare. So I was awake. I know I was awake, but I was laying still, endeavoring to go to sleep. I had developed a practice of doing a laying down meditation where you simply meditate while laying down, and I would do this while I go to sleep. So I could lay there awake for quite a long time. It usually takes me a long time to go to sleep anyway, so this is a good use of that time, is to lay there and do a laying down version of what Eastern practitioners called strong-willed I forget. Strong-willed meditation, something like that. I don't know. But it's where you just simply refuse to do anything. You're not going to move your mental faculty any more than automatic thoughts can force you to move it. And you're going to be absolutely still. Strong-willed? Strong determination sitting. That's what they call it, but I do it laying down. All right? Because it's a good thing to do while going to sleep. It's certainly better than sitting there and thinking about what the bitch at work said to you the other day. Strong determination sitting. They call it strong determination sitting. So while doing strong determination laying down to go to sleep, I was treated to a sensation of weight on my chest, but very much like the sensation of weight I experienced when happening upon the name the sister. It was not a weight. There was no pain, there was no fear. It was just very heavy weight, and it was giving me an impression that I cannot move. This is very important, and this is very important for you to understand. And those trolls among you who will insult me for this, you don't know what you're fucking talking about. You haven't tried to do anything like this, and you are stupid. All right? And just leave it there. It was a perception of weight, a perception that I was pinned down. However, at the same time of having the sensation, I also knew I could get up if I wanted to. So it was touching my awareness in a way that sort of says, listen, this is sleep paralysis. So it was like a game. It was like a game. But I knew I could move, but I didn't want to get up because I was not afraid, and I didn't want the lesson to be over prematurely. I wanted to get the lesson. So I just waited. I said, okay, I'm ready to wait for the realization that I'm meant to have. And it went on for some time, and I gotta say it was interesting. Interesting, partly because the whole idea of sleep paralysis and the traditional idea of a nightmare is sort of intellectually, emotionally fascinating. So I'm thinking, I wonder if this is this what people have been experiencing for centuries, and yet not having the ability to realize that they're not actually pinned down? I mean, that is an interesting thought. Maybe all of this demonic activity is just gives you the impression that you're being attacked, and that's it. You're not really being attacked at all. In fact, you're completely still under your own captainship. Maybe. I'm not saying that I know that to be true, but wouldn't it be interesting if all of this demonic activity was nothing more than just the impression of an attack, because we know, in reality, these fucking guys can't touch you. So either my impression, my assumption has always been that this was a continuance of my of the sister speaking to me, but it could be that I was approached by something demonic, and I was able to know that I wasn't actually being harmed. I was, imagine getting into a fight with someone who looks very big and intimidating, but is actually as weak as a puppy. And he's just laying, fists on you. Just raining fists on you. And maybe even because of some kind of mental manipulation, maybe your body is moving as if you are being hit. And so all the outward signs of having the shit beat out of you are there. But if you're quick enough, and if your introspection is strong enough, and if you know enough about what telling a lie feels like to not tell the lie to yourself, then you will know that you are not actually being harmed. And this is a lot like what that nightmare experience was like. I knew I was not being harmed. I knew I was not being held down. It was just an impression. It was just the feeling. It was a lie. It was a lie. So talking about it again now, I don't think of these things very much, and I do not and have not for a very long time made any attempt to have similar experiences. I picked up the phone, I got my answer, and I have hung up. All right, I have absolutely no desire to fool around with this stuff anymore. I know how to connect to the being I described earlier, who loves us and wants us to be bigger than our problems, and is probably the Creator himself, or maybe Yeshua himself, or maybe the Holy Spirit herself. I don't know, but whatever it is, it loves us and wants to fix us. Anyway, so I don't know if I was being taught a lesson by something loving or friendly or kind, or if it was a demonic attack. In which case, demonic attack it's child's play, guys. It's child's play. These things are weak. They're weak. They have no authority. Their only power is the power of lies. And that was that. That was that for that night. God, I've got to have more to say. Shit. And it's important too. So I need to do it. Alright, I'm going to go piddle potties. Drink more coffee. And fuck myself. Alright. Alright. So, having been taught those lessons, I was able to end. I was able to successfully appeal to an end to the ongoing depredations of the legal system. All right, so as some of you may know, my first ex-wife kidnapped my daughter. Well, she accused me of domestic abuse, falsely accused me of domestic abuse, and used my false arrest as an opportunity to take my child across the country. And for a number of weeks, she did this over and over and over again, like accusation after accusation. And I was arrested every time. There was no investigation. There was no truth-seeking effort made whatsoever. And even after the first time, when she still needed me, she had said, "I'm sorry, I lied," and the legal system ignored that and proceeded to persecute me viciously and persistently. And having seen the resoundingness of her initial success, she continued to do this over and over again. She would. It didn't matter that we were in two different towns. She would call the police, say that I had done something. They would come arrest me. You know. And so it was that, and it was through those series of actions that she was able to give herself the time, the opportunity to steal my child and flee the state. So for a period of, I think, 6 months, I didn't know where my daughter was. Hey, kitty. Hey, good girl. I didn't know where she was. Stop it. I didn't know if I would ever see her again. I didn't even know if I was going to be able to get the cops to do anything about it. Because I would go to the cops and say, "Look, my daughter was taken." They would say, "Go to family court." I would go to family court and say, "Look, my daughter was taken." They would say, "Go to the cops." I would go talk to a legal professional, and they would say, it is not our job to take care, to look after these sorts of things. And there was one cop at one cop shop, an old guy, an old chief, who knew that I was being messed with both by my ex and by the legal system. That I was being used as a chew toy by a group of stray dogs, essentially. And he wanted to help me, but even though he seemed to have a good heart, he was still essentially a cop and would not cross his. He would only go so far. But he was persistent, and eventually he was able to get U.S. Marshals to track the bitch down and arrest her, extradite her back to Delaware. And she was in Texas when they found her, and my daughter was taken by Child Protective Services, and I had 3 days to get out there and get her. I didn't have any money. I had absolutely no way to get out there. I appealed to. Let's see if I can find it. I appealed to. I can't remember. Wow. I don't remember the name of the organization anymore. And frankly, I happen to know that they're involved in a lot of child trafficking. All right, but they can't. I mean, there's a lot of explaining to do, and of course, I didn't know that at the time. But they also help rescue children because they have to cover their tracks. I know what that sounds like, but I believe it's true. And I don't know if you can read this, but it says priority access, missing child. All right, so I was given this ticket. Now that I think about it, I think it was American Airlines that paid. Yeah, American Airlines, like, they do this. So I was, God, and my son was being born at the same time. My son was being born at the same time when I got this call saying, we've got your daughter. You have to come get her. And that was on a Friday, and if I didn't have her on Monday morning, she was going to be given to Child Protective Services, and I am all but certain that she would have lived a life of sexual torture and exploitation if I had not been able to get down there and get her. Now, based on what I know about the top assholes, they have to go through rituals like this. They have to give you every opportunity, to steal a child in this way. Another way to do it is to get some creep to do. You see, if they get someone to do it for them, then that person who's doing the stealing is taking all of the karmic load. So when they do it this way, they have to give me every chance to fail. They have to give me every chance to give up. And that's what I never did. I never gave up. Not for a second. This is all a decade in the past, but if you can see the emotional imprint never goes away. I have a stack of paper this high that was produced over those 5 or 6 months. So my son was being born, and I'll tell you this. When my daughter was gone, I wanted to die. I wanted to die. But I knew I had a son on the way. And I knew I had a responsibility to him. And that's why I made it. Because I had to. Because I had a responsibility to him. He didn't ask to be born. I made him. And I owed him a father. And that sense of duty is what kept me from drinking a bottle of whiskey and driving off of a cliff. That's what I wanted to do. So I got my daughter back and continued, and for a number of years after that, let's see, there should be a date on this. 2011. So from 2011 to I think 2016. So for the next 5 years, I was constantly being dragged into family court because this fucking bitch, this sea monster from Sussex, was trying to get my daughter long enough to leave the state with her again. Over and over and over, she would keep taking me to court, trying to, and this woman's a monster, but my attitude was, she's the mother and I can't rightfully keep my daughter away from her, but what I want to happen is I want her to get a job, get a good house, and be clean and stable. That was my argument. And my efforts were based on making her do that. So I kept getting these state-paid child advocates who were never on my side. They always accused me of doing things I wasn't doing. It was fucking brutal. The first time I asked the court to appoint one, I was first contacted by her. She just called me and accused me of trying to dodge her and just accusing me of being on drugs and accusing me of committing crimes. And there were 2 of them, and they were both like this. Like I was trying to stop my daughter from being kidnapped again. And this is the way I was treated. And of course the judge was exactly the same. And I would go into these court sessions, and the sea monster would, persistently make accusations, and whatever she said, whatever she claimed I did, the judge would look at me like, "You motherfucker." Like, and I'm like, the whole time I'm trying to appeal, I'm crafting my language carefully. I'm doing my best to be reasonable and intelligent, to show that I've paid attention, to show that I understand the legal issues and the cultural issues, to show that my first interest is to take care of my daughter, and that I intend to do it fairly according to the law. This was, and none of that got me anywhere. All it did was stop her from being final. To stop, all I ever did by taking that attitude was to prevent my daughter from going down the toilet, though she was going in a circle and going around and around. And all I did was keep her from going down the toilet by having that attitude. By cooperating with the system, by giving it my deference, by trying to appeal to the system on its terms, all I did was keep us in this holding pattern of hatred and fear. Always being insulted, always being harassed, always, non-stop, charged money, forced to go places, told to do things, being accused of doing shit that was ridiculous. The amount of mental and emotional torture is, frankly, I'm convinced that it is designed to feed demons. Designed to feed demons, and I'll tell you why I think that. And this is my final and most potent proof of a spiritual reality. And again, it's not proof to you because I could just be pulling all this out of my ass as far as you know. All right? But it's proof to me. So, having been into meditation for some time and spirituality, I learned a chant which I know I'm probably saying it wrong. All right? So, if you know how this chant is properly said, I don't care. Because I said it the way I want to say it, and the invisible responded in a positive and loving way. And the chant, as I say it, is O mane pe me hyun. O, mane, like money, pe me hyun. O mane pe me hyun. And my voice is trembling because I've worked myself up into an emotive state. So one day, I had to go to court, and I didn't have transportation, so I was going to have to walk for 2 hours to get there, and I had written like 5,000 words more than I had to, because I needed to clear out time to do this. And during that walk, I walked down the railroad tracks most of the way and through all of the least inhabited spaces I could find on my way there, and was chanting in different ways, often singing it, often making fun of it. O mane pe me hyun, O mane pe me hyun, O mane pe me hyun. Now in the Eastern, I think, Tibetan, I'll say? No, I think it's more Indian than Tibetan. Anyway, the purpose of this chant is to get the attention of helpful beings. So, I was saying this chant nonstop, over and over, for a good couple of hours on my way to family court. And when I got there, everything was different. The bailiffs treated me respectfully. They listened to my comments and even laughed. Like, you have to give all your personal information on this piece of paper. And I know that they just throw it away, because I would put my address and phone number there, and yet still the court advocates would pretend like I never gave them my information. So I was writing down my information and then gave it to the bailiff, and I said, it'd be cool if they actually wrote it down this time. And he was like, haha, yeah. Like, actually, like, yeah, buddy. And it was never like that. Every interaction before that it was always hateful, it was always dismissive, it was always like I'm some kind of criminal punk, and they want me to know that they think that. Nothing ever like, haha, yeah. And I was like, whoa, that's really different. And then the sea creature and her mother, they appeared, and every time they would appear, they would sit there behind me in the waiting area and like make jokes, like nasty jokes, and just laughing and just snide and gross, and just like they wanted everyone to hear how nasty and unconcerned they were. This time, they were quiet. All I got was a little wave like this from the mother of the sea. It was like, like that, and I was just like, ugh, and I wouldn't look at them. But they weren't joking. They weren't being snide or openly revolting, except for being ugly. I mean, they can't help that. And I didn't show it, but inside of myself, I was like, whoa, that's really different. And then we went into the courtroom, and I did something that I had started doing before that, which is I stopped letting the judge hook my feelings. I would look out the window. I wouldn't look at her. I would just look at the trees, and I would answer questions when asked, as curtly as possible, as curtly and matter-of-factly as possible. And the rest of the time, I would just look out at the tree. And I was not going to let them hook into my emotions. I was not going to energize fear. I was not going to energize anger or outrage. And it was in that session, that was one of the shortest sessions ever, and it was the last one. No, it wasn't actually. It was the last one. And it was the sea creature just giving up. She said, "Look, I can't do this anymore. I can't do what he wants." Meaning she can't get a job and make her life stable. And I give up. And I turned to her and I said, "So is it over now? Can I tell my family they're safe?" And I said this in front of the judge and all. I said, "Can I tell my family they're safe? Are you finished?" And she basically just said, "Yeah." I did go back to court again because the court was taking money from her and giving it to me, and I don't want that. So I went again to say, "Look, stop taking her money. I don't want her money. I don't want her time. I don't want her energy. I just want her to do what she wants to do, which is fuck off." And that was the last time. And so I went in to talk to the child support person. You know what's funny is I was there because I was the one receiving child support, because I was the one who had the child and was taking care of her. But when I went up to the desk to tell them that I'm here, I had like a nice watch on, and the guy assumes that I'm the one who's supposed to be paying and isn't. And he says, "Oh, that's a nice watch you got there." And the tone of his voice was like, "Oh, clearly you have money to give." Like, fuck you. What he deserved was for me to reach across the table and knock his jaw loose. But of course, that wouldn't have been wise. But the last thing she said to me after I went in to talk to the person, I said, "Look, the amount of money I would get from her today, if you took the amount of money and then divided it by the days of the month, and if the amount of money that I would get out of that for today is less than what I could have made if I was at home doing my job right now. So I don't want her money. Just stop it. Just stop it." So that's what I said. And then I went back out in the waiting room, and then she went in and talked to them, and then she came out, and she comes out and stops in front of me with her scraggly fucking meth-addled body, and she stands there and she looks at me and she tilts her head and she goes, "Thank you." And I just went, "Bitch, I didn't do it for you, you piece of garbage." But the amount of change that happened, apparently because of my using this chant to appeal to helpful beings. This is what it's. I mean, how much time have I got? On one hand, it's as close as you could ever get to a proof of a spiritual reality. And further, not on another hand, but further on that same hand, it shows that what's going on in the family courts particularly is an ongoing satanic ritual designed to drain human beings of their emotive energy. All right? And if you know anything about the conspiracy side of this subject, you will not be surprised by that assertion at all. I refused to give. After I called out for help and I was given help, and at the same time I refused to give them the spiritual food that their satanic masters, their invisible satanic masters want. And that was when it was like, just judging from the demeanor of the judge alone, she was like, it was like she stopped being able to see me. She stopped talking to me. She stopped using my name. She stopped looking at the area where I was sitting. It was just like I vanished to her. You know, when flying fish evade a predator, they fly out of a wave and into the next wave. So to the gaze of the predator, it's like they disappear from the universe momentarily. Predator can't see the prey. Disappear. I feel like I was like a flying fish. And I was popping out of her reality, which is made completely out of a capacity for preying, for spiritual predatory action. I became invisible to that demonic, possessed aspect of her being. And it all just ended. Like the predator just lost the scent and gave up the chase. Because I stopped putting off a scent trail. I'm shaking a little bit. Let's see, what else have we got? Right, finally, in conclusion, I just restart my camera to make sure I have enough time to... Fuck, I'm running out of battery again. Fucking European Union. Alright, so let's finish this up. So, whoopsie doodle. So, got a fresh battery. Had my breakfast at 5:30 in the afternoon. Alright, this has been a fairly emotionally draining episode. So I'm glad to have gotten it out of the way. And I want to finish off with... I was going to finish off talking about Jesse Lee Peterson's Silent Prayer, but it occurred to me another important thing, and a bunch of things occurred to me, but let's just wrap this up, alright? So, I'm getting ready to redo the rice experiment. Now, this is an experiment where the purpose... Now, this has been done by hundreds of people on YouTube, and you can find lots and lots of video montages of people doing the rice experiment on YouTube. I'm not going to explain what it is right here, but I would say that what the rice experiment proves is that there's something more to your being than just meat, bones, and blood. All right, you have an energetic aspect which surrounds you and pervades you, which you can exert force through. All right, doesn't mean by which I don't mean you can pull your lightsaber out of the snow from a distant location. What I mean is, well, I'm not sure what I mean, but by doing the rice experiment, what we prove is that our feelings, our intention, our focus has an effect on other living things around us. And you can cause a patch of rice to rot by hating it. And you can cause a patch of rice to not rot by loving it. And this is what the rice experiment will show. So I'm going to begin that soon. And in my opinion, the lesson of the rice experiment is that love is the law. That you are required to be a loving force. Now, this doesn't mean ooey gooey, I want to jam you in the vagina because I love you kind of love. That's not love. All right? That is an aspect of life which can and should be enhanced by true agape love, but that's not what love is. All right, even the gooey feeling that you have for your children because you love them because they're made of you, That's not what love is. That is a potentially powerful and wonderful aspect of the creatures that we are, but that's not what love is. All right, love does not discriminate between one living being and another. Just like light does not discriminate in which direction it shall travel. But what I want to wrap this up with is something I've talked about quite a bit, I feel, not as much as it should be talked about. It's what Jesse Lee Peterson calls his silent prayer. Now, it is remarkable that Jesse Lee Peterson should happen upon this, we'll say, discipline, because he's technically a garden variety Christian, as far as I can tell. The only thing that makes him different from your average American Christian is the fact that he says that the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of God, is in your heart, and that is where you go to access the Word of God. Not to the Bible. Well, the Bible itself does say, do not be ministers of the law, do not be ministers of the letter of the law, don't be lawyers, don't hinge all of your beliefs and disbeliefs on the language written on the pages of the Bible, because that's foolishness. Alright, I can go into what the Kabbalah says about that, but let me assure you it's pertinent. So, what Jesse Lee Peterson teaches is to do this. To hold your hands in the standard what's the yogic term? Mudra. Okay, Jesse Lee Peterson doesn't call it that, but I call it that. It's a mudra. It's a way of holding your hands. Now, JLP says what you're supposed to be doing here is you touch your fingers together and you focus your awareness on the touching of your fingers. All right? This should center your awareness. This should be like an anchor to, now we're going to use my language, to the present moment, to the now. All right? You're anchoring yourself to the now, because that is where God lives. It lives in the space that is now. The present moment, not in the past, not in the future, right now, forever, now and now and now and now. And if you want to make contact with the divine force in the universe that wants you to be bigger than your problems, then that is the space where you need to go and there take on the proper attitude. So what is the proper attitude? According to Jesse Lee Peterson, the correct attitude is, you are God and I am not. What does this do? This arranges your being in such a way that you are saying, I am unable to take care of all of the things that affect my life. Right? What do Christians say? Put it in God's hands. Let go and let God. It's the same thing. You see, all paths do, in fact, it would seem, lead to the Creator. Alright, so you're meant to put your fingers together like this, and as soon as automatic thoughts begin to distract you, you're going to be distracted by them. You're going to mentally go down the roads that they take you. That's okay. What's important is not that doesn't happen, but that you bring yourself back. So when doing the silent prayer, it is done by simply remembering the contact between your fingers. And you go, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just count out the touching of the fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do that to re-anchor you into the present moment where your loving Creator exists, so that you can be with Him, her, it, hermit, so that you can be where it is. I know it sounds disrespectful, but that's not, I don't mean disrespect. I'm just trying to be accurate. Alright? So, by anchoring yourself in the present moment, you put yourself in the space where the Creator can reach you. Then, while in the present moment, you hold yourself in the attitude that you are God and I am not. And Jesse Lee Peterson, this is also amazing because he directs you to do things that are straight out of yogic practice, ancient yogic practice. And I don't know if he knows this or if it was shown to him by the Spirit, probably that. But it's amazing because he's telling you to do something exactly what the best and most honorable yogic practitioners teach you to do. And it's to be where God is and have the proper attitude, which is, you are God and I am not. All right. Now, he also directs you to put your awareness in the middle of your forehead. I don't know if he knows what he's doing or if he was just led to it by the Spirit. Either way is fine. But by the way, just so you know, I admire Jesse Lee Peterson enormously. He's extremely emotively wise. Just unbelievable. You know, he can be silly and he can be stupid and he can be childish, but he's extremely emotionally wise and has incredible, I would say, control over his anger. He would say he has no anger, which may well be the case. That's a whole other topic, though. The nature and utility of righteous anger and other forms of anger, different sources of anger. Interestingly, the name of the Satan being in the Zoroastrian tradition is Angramanyu. All right, so just let that be what it is. So I would say to you, anchor yourself in the present. You should do this sitting up too. You can do it laying down, but it's not as good. It's just not. But you can do it laying down. If you absolutely can't bring yourself to sit up and stay that way for at least 10 minutes, then go ahead and lay down and do it while you're falling asleep. But that's not the best. It's not. And I've had my best results in closest contacts with this loving force by sitting up and doing it properly. All right, you sit there, focus your awareness almost as if you're looking up through the middle of your forehead with your eyes closed. Anchor yourself in the present moment and take on the attitude, the emotional and energetic attitude that you are God and I am not. All right? And in that way, the Creator is allowed to do the things that it can do to help you. All right? And I will tell you this. By doing this, I shed my habit of obeying my anger. I became a kinder person, a more thoughtful person, a calmer person, less reactive, less responsive to rage, more gentle, more loving, more able to respect others, by which I mean look again, as in again, spect as in spectate, look, respect, look again. So you have an experience and your emotion goes, meh, but you need to look again. That's what respect is. It doesn't mean deference to, it doesn't mean obedience. It's not the feeling that we're told to have towards cops. All right, that's called Stockholm Syndrome. No, it means look again. All right? Maybe the person or the situation you're reacting to didn't intend the bad result that you perceive. Maybe they, like you, are incomplete, unwise, in need of love and teaching. All right? These are things that the force that came to be in contact with me when I did Jesse Lee Peterson's silent prayer made it possible for me to be this way. It started like this. I was like most people thinking that children should be spanked and treated rather unfairly for the simple fact that, well, because it's the way my parents treated me. And listening to the teachings of Stefan Molyneux showed me intellectually that all of that is wrong. You should never yell at your child unless they're running out into traffic. You should never lay hands on your child unless they're running out into traffic. The teachings of Stefan Molyneux convinced me that peaceful parenting is correct, that it is the only just way to raise a child. But I had to do Jesse Lee's silent prayer in order for my brain and my nervous system to be made into something that could render the actions that Stefan Molyneux's teachings prescribe. All right? You understand? So I had to get the software correct, but then I needed help getting the hardware correct, by which I mean my brain and nervous system. I needed help. What does that sound like to you? You are the creator and I am not. I need you to change me into a better person. All right? So it was the combination of Stefan Molyneux's teaching and my efforts in doing Jesse Lee Peters' silent prayer that made it possible for me to actually become a peaceful parent. And I promise you, I cannot remember the last time I laid a punitive finger on my children. I can't remember the last time. It's been years. And when I learned what I needed to learn from Stefan Molyneux, and then got to a point where I realized that the loving being that I was encountering using JLP's silent prayer made it possible for me to be that wisdom, then I said to my children that the way I was wrong. I said this to them, little children. This was a few years ago, so they were probably like 6 and 9, something like that. I said, children, the way I have been treating you is wrong and not fair. And I've learned that it's wrong and not fair. And I here and now promise you that it will never happen again. And it has never happened again. Now sometimes I get angry and I yell about other things like around them. Like if some asshole client through my job does something shitty, I might get upset and maybe like throw something. But it's never directed at my children, and it's not nice, and I don't like being angry in front of them. But I always say to them, you know, it's not you, and I'm sorry for showing you that, and just know that this is part of life, and it's not good, and I am sorry. You know, this is not a way to be, but we're not always in control of ourselves. You know, and I never direct my anger at them. I never even want to anymore. I haven't been angry at one of my children. Well, actually, I was angry at my daughter like last summer. She told me she lied about something, and I caught her on it, and I didn't freak out or punish her in any way. I just talked to her. I told her, if you're going to lie, then our relationship will fall apart. It's basically I told her, if I can't trust you, then our relationship will fall apart, and I won't be able to treat you in a way that's fair or kind if I can't trust you. So basically, that was it. And she completely turned herself around. And you know, imagine if I had said, "You little bad child! Oh, I'm angry at you, and here is a spanking to scare you and to not." Imagine I had done that. That way of being would have become embedded in her flower of life. You know, and that ain't rad, guys. So that's it. I've done it. This episode has been rather emotionally draining for me, but good. It was kind of difficult, but nice to re-experience some of those old experiences, which taught me so much. I always find that when I talk it through, the lessons become so much more resoundingly resembling something that could be described as wisdom. I learn it more harder, better, more harder. So that's a positive thing. So. All right, guys. Recently, somebody else joined Subscribestar. I don't know who you are, but thank you. So now I've got 6 radical Homo sapiens paying attention, you know, to what I'm doing over there. And what I'm doing over there on Subscribestar is I'm trying to post a link to every YouTube video that I consider to be required viewing. All right, I know it's not much, but it's only $2 a month, and that's as low as I've been able to get it. Before I was trying to make a promise that I would even lower it once I got more, and I tried to look into how to do that, and I can't find the interface to do it. I mean, I'm kind of a boomer when it comes to tech stuff. So I would make it, you know, if I had like 50 people over there, I would gladly lower it to $1 a month if I could figure out how. You know, it's not so much the money, because it's not even enough money to really even be money. I don't have enough subscribers so that I can even get that money out. So it's really, what it does is it helps me stay engaged with the channel. It helps keep me motivated to keep giving you guys the best stuff I'm able to give you, and that's all I do. Remember, I'm not a researcher, I'm a three-searcher. I look at other people's research and compare this to that and see what makes sense and what doesn't, and I don't believe in anything. I just consider that something might be true, and the more convincing it seems, the more I act as if it's true, and always ready to be proven wrong, you know. But I'll give you this promise, is that I try to do good work, and I never lie. So that is my promise, and I want to give you a piece of homework before I run out of time here on the European Union DSLR camera countdown clock. Listen to the Disturbed song, The Vengeful One. Watch the video, it's awesome. Most important, watch the video first, and then listen to it again while reading the lyrics. And take those lyrics to heart. Most importantly, the lyric contained in my exit stinger. The lyric, look inside and see what you are becoming. This is what you should do. Are you becoming anger? Are you becoming hatred? Are you becoming something vile? Or are you becoming love? Are you becoming tolerance? Are you becoming strength? How do you know? Is it based on how you act when you're out in the world? Maybe a little bit, but not really. You have to look inside yourself. Close your fucking meat eyes. Use your internal eye and look at yourself on the inside. You can do this. This is a facility that has been built into your very being. Look inside and see what you are becoming.